Hello, my name is Quincy Davis, and I am joined here by jazz drummer great Bill Stewart, and he's going to be taking part of this interview series where I get to interview him, ask questions that I've always wanted to ask him, and hopefully many of you have wanted to ask him. So, Bill Stewart, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this.
I'm honored. I admire your work very much. So, great drummer and composer. So, thanks for having me on your show. Maybe around 6 years old, something in there. I didn't really take lessons to begin, because my dad was a music teacher, and he sort of showed me some basic things about how to hold sticks and things, and that's how I started with match grip too. Because at that time they were, like, especially for younger students, they were starting to teach match grip at that point. It had become accepted in music education.
Okay.
And I just started playing with records and playing around the house.
I see.
And occasionally my dad would show me some things, or he had a drummer friend named Jim Eckloff who would come over. They would just come over to hang,
Yeah.
And I would see him play. So he would occasionally give me a pointer, say something about it, lift the stick up or something, something like that. There was a teacher there at the junior high school who helped me with some reading and stuff, because I didn't read real good. I still don't. And so there was that for a short time.
I find that hard to believe.
I read better now.
Yeah.
I read okay now.
Yeah.
I'm not the best, but I'm not the worst.
Right.
And I'm pretty good at reading, like, lead sheet kind of things.
Okay.
If you get into like complicated rhythms, and I need to have it.
A little second to
send it to me. My parents were both musicians. My mom directed choir. She's retired now. And my dad, he's more the jazz guy. He he played trombone, and he's a great trombone player in Des Moines, Iowa, which is where I grew up. And my mother still lives near Des Moines. At one point, I got classical piano lessons. They didn't send me to my grandmother. They sent me to her friend, who lived actually closer to us as well. So they tried to. I think they tried to
keep.
I think
create distance.
I think they wanted to keep grandma, and that kind of thing. So
I see.
Yeah, it made sense. But
yeah.
He had great records, So actually, that was such a big thing, is the records. Because we had, there was some live music to see in Des Moines, but it wasn't like we had bands coming through. A lot of it was really records. I dived in, even as a little kid. I think as a 2 or 3 year old, I was really interested in records. They fascinated. I would spin them on my feet, apparently, and ruined a lot of them. So my dad would start hiding the ones that he didn't want messed up from me.
Yeah. But for those of you, I'm sitting here on his couch and looking at a lot of CDs and a lot of records. So clearly that's a big part of your pastime.
Definitely. University of Northern Iowa. I had a percussion teacher. Randy Hogenkamp, and basically we did snare drum, marimba, timpani, kind of on an alternating basis. I was much better at the snare drum because I had experience with that. I was only at University of Northern Iowa for 1 year.
Okay.
And then I transferred to William Patterson College. And for my first year there, my regular drum set teacher was Elliot Zigmund.
Oh.
Who played with Bill Evans, most notably, I would say. For 2 years, I had Horace Arnold.
Okay.
You know
Horace? Name sounds very familiar.
Yeah, he had a couple records on Columbia in the mid-'70s, kind of fusion-y records, you might say, in the heyday of that. He had a record called Tales of the Exonerated Flea that was got some attention.
Okay.
And sometimes when they wouldn't make it, John Riley would sub. He was starting to sub there at that time.
Okay.
So he came in. I also had a lesson with Joe Lovano one time when I think Elliot couldn't make it.
So you would play duo. I know he plays drums as well.
Yes, but he didn't play drums in my lesson.
Oh,
he played drums in his saxophone lessons though, because every time he'd have like 6 saxophone lessons in a row, and he would play drums the entire time.
Good way to practice. It's a good way to practice.
Let's get up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he sounded great. I'd walk by and check Joe out. Yeah, wow, cool. I had a lot of different influences, which was good, and as opposed to just copying one or two guys,
right?
Which I always feel is like a little bit
limiting.
Yeah, and also especially if you have one main hero or something. I mean, how are you gonna? I don't know. How are you gonna
have your own sound?
Yeah.
Just one person. Yeah.
I got really into Bernard Purdy when I was like in elementary school. So, yeah, and so I started to see his name on other records and even a few others that we had,
Yeah.
Because I was always reading the liners, like while the record was playing,
Okay.
I started to get into other things like a little later, like, a little bit later. I got into like Jack DeJohnette, Roy Haynes, Tony Williams.
Yeah.
Actually, a New Orleans drummer who I was influenced by some was Idris Muhammad.
Okay.
Because I had him on records in the 70s when I was a little kid. And also hearing musicians around that my dad played with, in town too around that time, a drummer named Jim Eckloff. I think I got a lot together in my college years, to be honest, because I practiced a lot. And
what's a lot to you? I'm sure a lot of people are wondering.
It varied. It was not exactly the same every day, but
yeah.
It was. I was probably averaging 3 hours a day or something.
Mm-hmm.
I bet I was. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
And some days it would be more. Like on the weekends, it might be more. And on a weeknight, I might not have the time.
Time, yeah.
But on the weekends, I might have a day where I played 5 hours or something. I think it was often based on whatever I felt I was weak on.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'd played with a group, recently and felt that, I was having a certain problem with something, and so I'd work on that and practicing, maybe be a tempo, or I kept practicing some with recordings as well. Sometimes I would do that. Sometimes I practice time by myself.
Okay.
Just time, I don't use it a lot. I think I use the metronome more to check myself to see if a tempo is speeding up or slowing down or that kind of thing, as opposed to playing with it a lot.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Yeah, but I have played with it a lot too. There's something to be learned from that too. So,
I see.
But I feel like if you play with the metronome all the time, you're relying on it.
You're relying on it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. I had thought about it and listened to playbacks and been very picky about it. I heard things where I was dissatisfied with my playing and the feel of it too.
Yeah.
And it's always an important thing for me is how the music feels, and the groove of it. Everybody's that I like, in terms of feel. It's like everybody at once. But of course, certain tempos I can tend to think more of certain people.
I see.
Slower swing tempos.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to not somehow think of Elvin Jones. Even though people don't think of me as being an Elvin-ish drummer at all.
Right.
And I probably get some Elvin through like Jack DeJohnette as well.
I see.
But you have the memory bank of things that you heard and how it felt, and
I see.
Even gigs that I heard live. I remember going to the Village Vanguard one night and hearing Sphere and hearing Ben Riley, and they played Epistrophe. And I swear that like the roof was gonna raise or something. Wow. It was like that kind of like witnessing that kind of thing. So. Right. Yeah, I'm not an expert on that stuff either. Like really on like New Orleans, like second line drumming. I probably know a little bit more about it now than I did on some of those Scofield records that were early, where I played those grooves.
Yeah. You know more now.
A little bit.
Than you did
I'm still not an expert on that. You know,
it's not like
it's not like I went and did a whole bunch of research.
Right.
I think I had heard SCO with like Johnny Vidakovich before, so I knew kind of, and I think I'd also heard Victor Lewis play that kind of groove, like a New Orleans kind of groove.
Right.
That's the other thing about those grooves is, and I talk about this with John, is the eighth note between even and swung. You know, kind of like in the cracks.
Yes.
And another player who plays sort of in the cracks like that sometimes is Billy Higgins.
Oh, yes.
You know, some of those boogaloo grooves, and even sometimes the way he plays swing is more even than some guys. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, yes.
So, you know, I was influenced by all of that, and you know, Hank Crawford records and stuff. So, you hear some of the New Orleans thing in Idris, even when he's playing like a funk groove or a swing groove. Because he's a great swing drummer too. I remember some of the early gigs I did in New York with that were important with people like Lee Konitz. You know, I started playing with Joe Lovano, and then with SCO, with Joe Lovano.
Right.
That was really an important group for me to join. You know, and I have to mention, because before that, I have to mention that I played with Maceo Parker.
Yeah, and you recorded with him
several times. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I recorded Maceo, and so that was very important.
Which must have been a dream come true.
That
you know, checked out Bernard Purdy.
Yeah. Well, it's good that I did, because I knew. You know, I knew
needed that.
I knew not to do what a lot of jazz drummers would do on those gigs.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Playability, I think, mostly. Like, does it give me what I need?
Yeah.
In terms of, does it respond the way I want it to, or does it do what it wants to do? You know, or can I control it? And can I? Usually, I want to get a lot of different sounds out of a cymbal.
Yes.
Like out of a ride cymbal. Like some ride cymbals, they might sound good, but they have mostly one sound.
Okay.
I mean, I like a cymbal that I can get some different sounds on. I guess I like definition in a ride cymbal for sure. I want to hear the rhythm that I'm playing. Yeah. So there's that, but I want some color too. You know, I want some complexity, some color. I don't want a brick. I don't want a super dry sound. You know, like pavement. You know.
So finding that balance.
Balance in color and definition. I guess I tend to like cymbals that are maybe on the darker side, but I don't like dark wash fest kind of cymbal. You know, like I you know, and I'll lose gigs if I take that cymbal.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is what sounds good with music too. I think, you know, my ride cymbals tend to range from like about 5 pounds, a little bit more, 5 pounds, 2 ounces, up to maybe 5'8". Yeah, people have asked me about that, and thank you. I don't even know exactly how I arrived at. When I was younger, I played the cymbal like this. Not like the thumb,
with your
like this.
Uh-huh.
Actually, when I was at UNI, a drummer named Steve Houghton.
Yep.
I used to play with Freddie Hubbard.
Yep.
He came. He was a clinician and heard me play. And he recommended that I switch from this to this.
I see.
And he was right. But you know, we see a lot of players who play generally thumb up. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of that.
Yes.
I used to see Art Taylor. Now he did play like this, and I don't know how he sounded so good, but he sounded great. So you can't argue.
Interesting.
But yeah, I started playing like this, and then you know I had a thin cymbal in college that I really had to get definition out of. It was a thin old K. It was a 20. In order to make it cut through a band a little better, because it was kind of a soft volume cymbal, and I really probably would have wanted something that had a little more power.
Yep. But
it had such a sweet sound that I kind of wanted to play it, so it was like, okay. So I had to work on making it project. I think that playing that cymbal affected my technique.
Okay.
So then when I went to other cymbals, I'd bring out more of the part of it.
Exactly.
But I think in order to do that, basically, I would grip the stick tighter in order to try to get more definition.
I see.
I mean, if I grip, even to this day, if I want a little more broader sound, I'll grip the stick a little looser.
Okay.
Like a slower tempo, I won't grip it so tight. But I think a lot of people see my thumb go up.
Yes.
And that's what they see, and that's what they think is different.
It's giving the sound, but
Yeah.
it's more how.
So I don't know if it's that.
How firm you're holding the
it's
stick, maybe.
maybe partially
Combination.
that. I think my thumb does that at times, but not always. Sometimes it's more like this.
I see.
I can play like this too.
Right.
Just like more like what
It's kind of conventional.
more conventional.
Right. Right.
I think at faster tempos, especially if I'm needing the definition, then sometimes I do this. But I'm not always aware of what I'm doing these days.
It's more just about the sound.
I'm thinking about the sound, and I automatically do things, but I don't always analyze what it is. So sometimes.
So we're the ones who analyze. You just do.
Yeah. Well, I watched a lot of drummers and try to analyze what they did, and I've heard other players get that to some degree. Certainly like Jack get some of that.
Yeah.
Idris Muhammad got that.
Wow.
Kind of click in the sound there I could hear, and I think that sound comes from more here actually, because if I put my ear like right here when I'm playing a cymbal,
then
I hear it super loud.
Wow.
I hear
Interesting.
I hear that real loud if I do that. The overheads are a little more toward being above me.
Yeah.
Then you get more of that.
So is that a request you make?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have made it, and that's been a trial and error thing of just doing recordings and seeing how different guys place the mics and listening and going in the control room and seeing if it sounds like what I think it should sound like.
Right.
Yeah, I know you do it all the time. And every time it's a little different, So I try to help things along if I can.
Yeah. Well, I hate to for the interview to end, but it's been a really informative.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Thanks to you.
I'm flattered that you would want to talk to me.
Of course, I've been an admirer, and I'm still an admirer for quite a long time. So
thank you.
It's great to have a chance to talk to you.
Work on music and listen to a lot of music and find what it is that you love and pursue that and try to get the big picture as far as music too. And like if you're a drummer, don't just listen to the drums either. Listen to everything, or zoom in on what the bass player is doing, or check out some chords or check out some other things too.
Absolutely.
And that'll help you in the big picture of music if you're a drummer, because you'll be able to relate to other people in the band and talk about things in the music and influence it in various ways. So that's about it. That's one thing.
That's a very important thing. So just do that, and you'll be able to sound like him. Well, keep an eye out for Bill Stewart. Hopefully, he'll be coming to a town near you or a town near me. So anyway, thanks for checking out the video, and stay tuned for more lessons and also interviews. And we'll see you later. Thank you. And thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right.
Right. Festivals and things, and people, people hearing me.
Yeah. You need to get that?
I don't.
Okay.
It's
like, it's probably a gig. No, I'm Bill.
No, it's they're trying to sell me something. I'm sure. Yeah. And all these calls are, it's never a gig.
Yeah. Okay.